Welcome back to Sold Out Sports Talk on AFR Talk as we set you up for a great finishing time weekend for sports as we go faith, family, and sports right here as we do every Saturday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central Time. Of course, you can follow us at afr.net, streaming live. And we always do it one way here, and that is to give you an opportunity to hear the platform of athletes and coaches that get it. Guys that are about faith, family, and sports. Women that are about priorities. And today is no different as we love to bring you guests that are not only making a difference in their own life, in their own families, but more importantly, taking their platform out to the world. And this guy is a man who I've looked forward to speaking with. His new book is called Inside Out Coaching: How Sports Can Transform Lives. Has been released August 2nd. Simon & Schuster. You can get it everywhere. It's a part autobiography, and it's also a motivational manifesto, part instruction, so you got a little bit of everything here. But I'm really excited to talk to this guy. 13 years in professional football. Of course, a lot of people know him with the Colts and in the United States Football League, but he's an ordained minister. Parade Magazine called him the most important coach in America. And we've got him right here with us. Joe Erhmann, our guest. And, Joe, great to have you in. Appreciate you coming on Sold Out Sports Talk.
Well, Roman, great to be with you and your audience, so thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, let me say this. It's a very interesting story. I mean, a lot of people saw your story told back in 2004 with Jeffrey Marks' bestseller, Season of Life, and where it told your story. And obviously, like many other athletes out there, you were a guy who spent a great deal of time in the NFL, understand what it's like to play in the National Football League. We've had many other NFL guys on this program, but I love your story because you saw a place in your life that needed to change, and you made a direction change. And one of the things that interests me is what gave you the motivation to say, you know what, I'm going to go to Dallas Theological Center. I'm going to get an education here and become an ordained minister.
Well, right in the middle of my professional career, I watched my little brother die of cancer. Spent 5 months on a pediatric oncology floor in a waiting room with all of these other families who had children facing life-threatening illnesses. And if you ever want to know where authentic community and truth and perspective is, it's in those waiting rooms. So it was during his dying process and then following his death, I started to ask the deep questions for the first time. What is the purpose of life? Where does meaning and value come from? I had fulfilled all of kind of the cultural criteria about success in life and what it means to be a man, and at that moment I recognized I had no idea. So I started this long inward, inside-out journey trying to find the answer to life's most profound questions. That led me to Christ, which led me to seminary, trying to get the educational tool to how do you help build God's kingdom in this world.
Joe Erhmann, our guest on Sold Out Sports Talk on AFR Talk. And, you know, Joe, you said something that, you know, as I have visited with, and I know you have been around in an NFL locker room and professional sports, and one of the downfalls of professional sports, and of course my dad played 16 years in the NFL, is sometimes you can get so focused on the goal, so focused on that Super Bowl trophy, so focused on your career, that what begins to happen slowly but surely is and this happens in many other focused jobs as well, where suddenly, you know, family becomes a little bit gray, priorities take a back seat at home, and suddenly it becomes all about us and all about what we want to accomplish. And I know you've seen it and I've seen it in so many, and guys that are great guys that started out with all the right priorities. And what was it that changed you in terms of your thought process to say, you know what, there's more to life than just playing football?
Well, I think all of us have to develop some kind of coherent narrative. You've got to make sense out of your own life and have an autobiographical ordering of the good, the bad, and the ugly that has happened to you. My experience is that, and I still continue to do an awful lot of workshops in the NFL every year, most are driven by a deep pathological drive to kind of validate their sense of personhood through athletic performance or through some other measurement of success. it becomes pathological because really you're so driven to overcome some wounding in our own childhood and adolescence that we say we're going to validate and prove ourselves, and we don't care what the cost is to ourselves, to our families, to our children, to the well-being of our own life. Now, I think the number one common denominator of professional football players has to do with father-child dysfunction. I think the same thing is true in boardrooms as well. But everyone has to make sense out of their own life. It's critical in order to allow other people to attach to you. So I just started making sense. There are so many things. You know, and as men growing up in this society, I think the three scariest words that every man receives is when they're told to be a man. And it's always in the context of stop acting that way, stop those tears, stop those emotions. Boys are taught to have feelings, to show them, to express them, to name them, somehow considered things of masculine failure. So we separate our hearts from our head and try to live this life from the neck up. And professional sports can be a tremendous place to hide. You hide inside that helmet. You hide behind the facade of being an athlete. And the challenge is how do you come out of that in order to really have some kind of success that you need to define and measure in life.
Former Baltimore coach Joe Erhmann is the author of Inside Out Coaching, and Joe shares in this his personal history in his own words, and also explains and develops coaching philosophy and does seminars, as he said, not only at the NFL level, but he works with high school, college coaches, youth coaches, talking about incorporating the importance of what a coach is and the description of what a coach is and how a coach can be most effective in changing the lives of young people. And you can get this book, of course, at Simon Schuster. You can go to his website at joe@coachforamerica.com. That's joe@coachforamerica.com, or on Amazon or anywhere else that you can find books out there. You can get it. And I want to tell you, get this book because he's got some incredible ideas as well as experience to share with not only fathers, but many of our fathers are coaching their kids. Many of our fathers out there want to be involved in their young people's lives. And you hit a key point, Joe. When you got a 50+% divorce rate, when you got 65% latchkey kids, when you got a situation in our country with a lack of leadership where in schools, black and white, right and wrong, moral values have taken the back seat, where they've eliminated God from the classroom, and you look at in going into schools, many of the guys that I talk to, like you and myself, when we go in, the one thing that I hear across the board is when these things are absent, there's a lack of hope in our kids today, and a lack of hope brings about a great deal of danger.
Yeah, I think the social contract between adults and young people in America has been broken. The sad reality is we're the richest, most powerful nation in the history of the world. And yet if you paint a picture of poverty, neglect, and abuse, it's a picture of a child in this country. 1 out of 5 children, 20%, live at or below poverty. Adults in America have the responsibility to protect childhood. That's a special time and place. Children shouldn't have to earn or work for love and respect and for a place in this society. And I think when there's an absence of hope, boy, that gets filled with all kinds of negative potential. So I wrote the book really to create a dialogue in this country. I think the social contract between coaches and leagues and schools when it comes to athletics has been broken. What is it that we ought to deliver to every child that wants to play some kind of sport? So I have 4 questions that every coach needs to be able to answer with great integrity and at every season. The first question is, why do you coach? Is it really about you, or is it about the players? Second question is, why do you coach the way that you do? Is it to optimize the development, the experience of those players, or are you trying to get your needs met through the performance of young people? Third question is, what does it feel like to be coached by you? Children are under tremendous pressure in this country. I don't think it's ever been more difficult to be a young person with all the negative social media, the messaging that young children receive. Coaches have to have some kind of empathic response. Every kid comes to practice every day with Post-it notes on their foreheads, asking questions about who am I, who will love me, who I love, what can I do with my life, what am I going to stand for, and who am I going to stand with. Coaches need to be mindful enough to construct their coaching and programs to answer those questions, irregardless of athletic performance. And the last question every coach needs to be able to answer is how do you define and measure success as a coach? It can't be about wins and losses. It has to be about transforming the lives of young people. There needs to be some clear definition of what we're trying to achieve. And parents who are making tremendous sacrifices, they need to have some honest, realistic expectation about what their children ought to be receiving through a sports experience.
Joe Erhmann, our guest. He is the writer of Inside Out Coaching. You can get his book on his website at joe@coachforamerica.com. And one of the things that I've enjoyed is his life mission is very clear: to help boys and girls become men and women of empathy and integrity who will lead, be responsible, and change the world for good. And Joe, in about a minute in this segment, address for me why you think a coach, and I know this takes a while, but just in a short 45 seconds or so, why is a coach so important to a young man or a young woman?
Well, I think it's because if you look at the elevated role, sports in America will engage more families, more individuals, more communities in a shared activity than a cultural activity, organization, or religion in this country. It has become the secular religion, and the high priest of that religion is the coach. They have unparalleled power, platform, position in the lives of young people. They're one of the most important adults that in the lives of young people other than their parents.
Joe Erhmann, our guest on Sold Out Sports Talk on AFR Talk. And one of the things that I'm looking forward is we go to break. What I want to do is when we come back, we got so many parents in this audience listening to Sold Out Sports Talk on American Family Radio, and American Family is all about protecting the family, but also equipping parents. And when we come back, I'm going to ask Joe to talk to you parents, to talk to you coaches, to talk to you adults out there who you're concerned about your kids. School just started here in the last week at most schools. And we're going to ask him some really direct questions about what you can do as a parent to encourage your child who's involved in extracurricular activities, and those that are not, what we can do to get them more involved. Because one of the biggest problems we have today in America is lack of exercise. Cutting out extracurricular activities has had detriment and has caused severe problems with our young people. And when I come back, we're going to talk to the author of Inside Out Coaching, Joe Erhmann, and we're going to ask him some specific things that can help you. So hang in there when we come back on Sold Out Sports Talk on AFR Talk. More with Joe Erhmann.